This is the beautiful land of the Big Island of Hawaii. Watch with me as I unicycle 300 miles for about 2 weeks all around its perimeter, camping along the way. I packed up my unicycle in a big cardboard box and made my way to a town called Captain Hook, where I would begin my adventure. There, I met up with Paolo, who was on a mission to ride around the entire island. This was to raise money for the Great Cycle Challenge organization that raises money for children's cancer research. Brendan would also be joining us along the way, and we set up camp that night under the awning of a food truck. The gracious owner had heard what we were up to and gave us not only a place to stay, but a warm dinner as well. I had to join the expedition 2 days late, so this is what they did already, and this is what we were going to do on my first day. That night, we made it to Punalu'u Beach, where we set up camp. We shared it with our new friend who was living there in his hammock, who was curious about our unicycles. Hello, guys. So we just got lunch on day number 3. We're outside a convenience store. We took an interview for the local news on the side of the road. You can see the same elevation sign in the background here.
I'm riding all the way around Hawaii.
While other participants use 2 wheels, he's riding on 1 on his unicycle, and he's going all the way around the Big Island.
Looks like we're almost done with day number 2 for me, day number 4 for Paolo. It's supposed to be one of the harder days of the ride, and I can feel it. It's been over 3,000 feet of elevation so far. We camped at the beach last night and we're already up 3,000 feet. Sunset's in about an hour and a half, so we're really trying to cook it for this last stretch. It's been a tough day. It's been a tough day.
We found a campground to set up in for the night and really appreciated the rest. Then it was time to get back out there the next day. The scenery of the first 2 days had a lot of dry lava rock, but now we were starting to see more and more tropical plants. We were making our way to the wetter east side of the island, where storms start but get blocked by volcanoes from moving to the drier west. We made it into Paolo's hometown of Pahoa, where we would be staying for the night with his roommate Hope, who had generously been meeting up with us to drop off supplies and offer encouragement. We took a much-needed shower, treated ourselves to some snacks, and played around on the unicycles before heading out again, onwards to the Puna coast today. What side of the island was right? We got drenched this morning. We found these fruit stands all over the place that had big piles of fruit that the residents had collected and little bins to put some money in. The Puna coast was definitely one of my favorite places to ride for the entire trip. We took lots of smaller roads that went right up along the coast, dotted with black rock beaches and palm trees. Gorgeous! Today was all about fun. There was a lot to see in this area of the island, so we left our camp set up and we did a simple loop and returned here at night. We played around on the unicycles, rode through some tree tunnels, and took a dip in a nude hot spring. Then, we went through a lava field from a recent eruption. I've never seen a road just end like this before. We explored this lava tube that we had found that had all sorts of interesting features, like this slimy hair on the ceiling, before we headed back to our gorgeous cliffside campsite for the night. Today was Paolo's birthday. We woke up to a beautiful sunrise before packing up camp and heading out further up the coast. Our goal was to make it to Hilo tonight. First birthday surprise? Serenade at lunch. Maneuvering around was super challenging with all my gear strapped onto the back of my unicycle. You can see me really struggle to turn here, but the big 36-inch wheel makes dropping into bowls really quite smooth and flowy.
Ah, brother.
We enjoyed some roadside snacks as we made the rest of our trek into Hilo, where we would be meeting up with Hope again, who would be joining Paolo for his birthday dinner. Paolo had been posting about the whole journey online, and one of his followers reached out to him suggesting a spot to camp near Hilo. We arrived there at night, so we couldn't really tell what it was like, but when we explored it the next morning, we found out what a great spot it was. We spent the day in town, looking at the market where Hope sells her own homemade soaps at Hope Soaps, and tried new fruits. We even saw a nene, the state bird of Hawaii. Knowing it would be hard to find a good spot to camp in Hilo, we headed out a few hours before sunset, taking the scenic route up the coast. Here, we passed by a photographer shooting the birds, and one of Paolo's followers later found the photo online and told us about it. Between this incident and the various news interviews Paolo had done, some people were starting to recognize us on the road. They would often stop to chat with us, many donating to our charity. We came across some locals who we asked if they knew any campsites nearby, and they suggested this one under a bridge. I particularly like this one since the bridge also served as a cover from the rain that night. The scenery was very nice this morning, and we took a slow start to admire it. This roughly marked our halfway point, and it had already been one amazing adventure. As I watched the sunrise and got ready this morning, I took some time to reflect and appreciate what an incredible journey I was on. Sometimes, cars would get a bit close or would honk at us, but thankfully we never really ran into any serious issues. We also worked out some hand signals for safety. We rode across many bridges like this where the guardrail would have been enough for a person walking, but on the unicycle, our heads were about 8 feet off the ground, so it got a little bit spooky to look at the fall below. We had what was becoming one of my favorite meals, gas station chicken katsu. This dog joined us, hoping for a bite. Aside from whatever restaurant food we got, I'd also been eating lots of bars, jerky, and non-perishable food, as well as fruit. Wild avocados, mangoes, and these star-shaped fruits grew all along our path. Often, they would just be sitting on the shoulder of the road waiting for us. But by far the most common fruit we had was guava. These things were everywhere. The winds really picked up for the rest of today's ride, and it got so bad at one point that we both got blown off our unicycles and we had to walk.
Boo!
That night we made it into Honoka, where Paolo used to live when he first got to the island, and I had a slushie topped with leafing powder. We camped behind a school track that night and had a rush morning the next day since we were kicked out. To make up for it, we went to the skate park to play around. Here, I carefully line up my pedals, only to totally eat it.
Oh! Yeah, brother.
Today was a really tough day for me and Paolo emotionally. It had been a tough week of riding so far, and I had been wet for at least the last 4 or 5 days. At one of our breaks on the side of the road, we took some time to talk out our feelings and cried it out before we moved on.
Yeah, it's a whole different world.
This fruit stand worker was excited to see us on the unicycles and gave us a free coconut. We took the long-awaited and highly anticipated descent into the steepest paved road in America. It felt magical to be looking down into this valley as we rode, and I couldn't help but smile the entire descent. This was the longest unicycle tour I had ever done by far, and as I soaked in the incredible beauty of this valley, I couldn't help but get overwhelmed by the excitement of finding a new hobby. I told Paolo that I knew this trip would be the start of a lifetime of doing tours like this, and I thanked him for taking me on this trip with him. We said goodbye to our new friends on our way out of the valley the next morning. We took a detour to get to this valley, so now it was time to backtrack. We went back up the way we came, and I got about one pedal in before I realized there would be absolutely no way I'd be able to ride back up. We passed by the same girl at the fruit stand, and she gave us a massive bowl of fruit this time. As we approached the northern part of the island now, the weather was getting a bit better. While it didn't stay sunny the whole day today, it was great to be able to dry off a bit and to see some blue skies in the morning. As the day dragged on, the high of being in that beautiful valley was wearing off, and the wetness and tiredness was setting in. We slugged through the rest of the ride and made it into Waimea that night, where we once again met up with Hope for dinner. Once again, I was in awe of Hope's generosity, who had put us up in a hotel last night. I took 2 showers, one because I was dirty, and the other just because it felt good. The entire time we were getting rained on, I was imagining how nice it would be to return to the dry side of the island. I had been wet for about a week now, and I was really looking forward to being dry. However, instead of being wet from the rain now, I was wet from the sweat. It was blazing hot here now that we were on the west coast, and with few clouds in the sky, we were getting baked. But I definitely couldn't complain. Our harsh, rocky lava coasts were now replaced with golden sand beaches. We spent the majority of today just relaxing on the beach, where we eventually set up camp for the night. We were kicked out in the middle of the night and had to improvise and find a quick spot in the dark. We headed up the road a bit and ended up making it to a gorgeous spot. One of my favorite parts about the route that we took was how different the scenery was day to day. A few days ago, we were in the lush forest, and now we were in the desert. Today would mark the last full day of riding. I still couldn't believe how far we had come, all on just one wheel. We wandered into a vacation resort where we treated ourselves to a nice celebratory lunch. When I'm not touring on the unicycle, I mostly ride Muni, short for mountain unicycle. My favorite is working through technical, rocky terrain that requires lots of control and maneuverability. The entire trip, I kept seeing stuff that I thought would be really fun to ride with my unicycle, but I thought I should play it safe and not risk breaking anything. However, with less than 15 miles left in this trip, I really let myself enjoy the fun terrain of this island. We also saw several wild goats, playing with each other against the backdrop of the beautiful Hawaiian volcanoes. As the sun was setting, we were once again told we wouldn't be allowed to camp there, so we began to look for a new place. Turns out, we met a local surf instructor who said he knew a great spot. He showed us a miraculously flat rectangle of land amidst the jagged lava field. I fell asleep without my tent that night directly on the rock, watching the stars and thinking how lucky it was to have met our new friend tonight. By this point, we were a few miles from town, and that would officially complete Paolo's circle around the island.
Big island on the unicycle. Woo! Yeah! Fantastic.
We took a slow morning to play around some more, soaking in the last morning of our time together.
Yeah!
By far, my favorite part of the trip was all the support we got from everyone around us. From Hope coming through multiple times to bail us out of tough situations and just to hang out, to all the strangers who had seen us on the news and just wanted to chat to the weirdos unicycling around the island,
brother.
and all of my friends and family back home cheering me on and supporting our cause. I was really, really grateful. I'm not sure if I've gotten as close with someone as quickly as I have with Paolo. Other than when we were pooping, we were pretty much together for 14 straight days, and being in such tight contact with someone on such a tough journey really bonded us. We experienced some euphoria together, and we went through lots of hardship too.